I'm sorry, Andrew Weissman, but if I recall correctly, in 2018, you were one of the people who helped write the Mueller report, and you all botched the hell out of that.
And never in my wildest dreams would I have thought we would be here. I thought we were better as a country.
Oh, yeah.
Like all these sites that have been around for creating videos and all that, like text stock videos, they're done.
But that's why Canva was one of the first to get into doing AI.
What is up, everybody? Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2018 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, and 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care, and being part of that team, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers since the year 2020. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on November 16th, 2024. Yes, we're in the second half of November, and you know what? End of year is coming. End of year is coming. Like, that's what I was just thinking. I'm already thinking 2025, just at the beginning of this month. Now it's really coming in. But if you don't know where you've come to, or if you do know where you've come to, you're coming to Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala. We weren't here last week for, I think, good reasons. But this week, we have them back. I couldn't let them get away from me for another week. Aisha Staggers and Laura Lala Key are back in the house. What is going on, ladies?
Trying to balance.
Okay. You know what? I was saying this to my mother yesterday. It's only been a little over a week since the election. This man has not even started his term yet. Okay.
And the
last.
Hold on. We're going to talk about postmortems. So
no, we're going to do that. This isn't a postmortem. Okay, I'm just telling you how I'm feeling.
All right.
The last 3 days have felt like a year already.
Okay.
And I'm just remembering that kind of chaos. And just this week has felt very chaotic.
Okay. Lala, how you doing?
I'm reeling because I don't even have the real words to say it. You've heard me say it in the intro. I thought we had come a little bit further than this. I was really hoping that love would win. And I honestly and truly feel like we're nowhere near that. And I also really do feel like there was some shenanigans going on about this, but guess what? Doesn't matter if it is or if it isn't. We're stuck with what we've got now. Okay. So now we're going to have to deal with that. I have been extremely emotional about this. And there are days that I still cry. The more and more he comes out with new things, the more and more I sink. But I just keep picking myself up and I start thinking, what is it that I can do to make my world and the people who I love safe and ready for this journey?
Okay, we'll get right into it. Let's get the other things out of the way first. Always subscribe to Girlfriends Chat with Aisha Lala and Jill Jones at Patreon. And
we had a real one this week.
Oh, I can imagine.
We had a real one this week. And I'm debating whether or not to edit. I've been sitting with
if Jill was there, I know that was fire among mass. Okay.
I think I'm going to put it out unedited. I think everyone needs to hear the real raw emotion that we felt. Wow. So I'm going to post it tomorrow unedited.
Okay. And Primetime Saturday Show Store, there is the link there. And we have join the Discord group. Email me dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Also, if you want to subscribe to my platform on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the notification button or tell people about it. I think we're getting near to 1,590 subscribers. So I'd love you to push it over and tell other people about it. Also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And also to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I shine my head on, please email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. All right. And we have a few people that are already in the house. Number one fan, Jen Myers, says, hello, everyone. Fitness IQ Cat says, hey, I have my popcorn. She goes, I was waiting for y'all, ladies. And Fitness IQ goes, hugs. Shirley Jasmine says, hello, everyone. Can't wait to hear from you guys debriefing. And Fitness IQ Cat says, yes, please. I'll be checking it out. All right, let's get right to it, because if I didn't put it up, you'd already be into it. You weren't here last week, so you already started talking about it. Presidential election postmortem. Who wants to start?
I will. We're going to say what mainstream media is not saying, what the pundits aren't saying. It all boils down, and I said this in my Blue Sky, which is another thing we're going to talk about later, but it wasn't the cost of eggs. It wasn't the economy. It wasn't that Democrats weren't talking to men. It was the racism. And if you say it's anything else, you're being less than disingenuous. This country has not gotten over the racism. And let me tell you something. The reason that so many people came in full force is they were not going to let another Black person hold that office. Let's be very, very clear. We have been paying for their racism and their anger about Barack Obama since 2008. I am tired of it. I know every Black person in this country is tired of it. But the bottom line is this. These are people who grew up hearing, like all of us have, that there will never be a Black president in my lifetime, in your lifetime. And then it happened. The one thing in this country that was guaranteed to only belong to white people, specifically white men, was the presidency of the United States. And when that happened, that a Black president, it could belong to Black people too. They were going to make sure we never forgot it, that it never happened again. Why and how do we know this? Because in the postmortem of this, we learned how Russian interference, Elon Musk's interference on Twitter, the bots and all of that doubled down on the racism. They doubled down on every hate thing. The majority of those conversations about, is she Black enough, and stirring that stuff up, didn't start with Black people. It started with the bots and Russian interference. We've been had.
Once the election was over, everyone noticed. Like, it was so noticeable how many people dropped followers. People didn't have, like, followers were gone. They were all
in the hundreds.
Bots.
Yeah. And the part of it that is so angering is that media. People, you want to eradicate racism in this country? Start talking about it. Start being real and honest about it, because you can't fix a problem when you don't acknowledge it. You know, back in the 50s and 60s and prior to that, in the 20th century, they referred to it as the Negro problem. Guess what? The Negroes didn't have the problem. Racism is a white people's problem. Because if it wasn't, you wouldn't have had the 70+% number you have of white men voting for the racist, the misogynist. You wouldn't have had 53 to 57% of white women voting for the racist and the misogynist. You would have seen that last rally that he had at Madison Square Garden. That should have been totally disqualifying. That was a white power hour, not a political rally. That was akin to what they used to hold. They used to hold these white power hours on TV in the South. That was what that was.
Exactly.
You know how you know it was so bad? Because no mainstream news outlet ran any of it live. They ran Kamala Harris's that same night or the night after, but they did not run his. And everyone who refuses to acknowledge that should be ashamed of themselves. You're part of the problem.
You know, I don't, if anybody watched our watch party, you will notice that we were like, I kept telling you, and I kept saying it over and over. They're calling this too early. This isn't right. This is, you don't call this, not even 10-15% of the votes are in, and you're calling a state. Something isn't right. And of course now people will be like, you're just a conspiracy theorist, you're just sour. No, when it happens to us, it's okay. But when it happens to you, you cry foul. This voting system needs to be torn down all the way. And the problem is that we get so upset after a major election like this, and everybody's up in arms, up in arms. Oh my God, we got to change it. And then people go to sleep and their anger goes back to everyday living. And then it never happens again to talk about it unless something like this happens. But the truth of this matter, the election way that we are doing it is broken. It's been broken for many, many years, and it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about this. I think for state and local elections, having a 2-week period to vote is fine. But when you need to, this is like someone said this on social media, that voting is the worst group project ever. And if we're going to do this group project, I think we should have a longer period of time to vote than just a 2-week period in places where there's early voting, and a 1-day period where there is, because we're talking about over 200 million people who are eligible to vote in this country. You mean you're expecting to get all those people to the polls in 2 weeks in some places, a day in the rest? That makes no sense whatsoever. Honestly, I think that people should have a month to vote. We should make it as easy as possible. You should be able to mail in your vote. You should be able to put it this way, if I can access my bank account from my cell phone using my fingerprint, and that's how I am able to validate who I am, I do not understand why we can't vote that way.
I don't think it's ever going to change in our lifetime, Aisha. In our lifetime, it's not going to be fixed. Yeah. And we are still in very much danger of us not being able to vote again for a very long time if it ever gets turned, because we know that Trump has said that he's said it many times. He's never, ever told you something that he didn't stand behind. Right. He has said you will not have to do this again. That's not told people. That's telling you directly what he is planning to do. Yeah. I mean, you should be upset about this.
Case in point, tonight, it was just reported that he's making a list, and he's going to go after anyone involved in the withdrawal from Afghanistan to see if they can be court-martialed. And people on the news are shocked. Didn't that man say that was what he was going to do? I don't understand how at this point we don't believe. Look, there are things that he does say he's going to do that he didn't do, like build the wall. And Mexico will pay for it. But the majority of things that he said he was going to do, he does, because he is like a child. He has no filter. He has no mechanism of self-control, and he thinks he's always right. This man has his ass on his shoulders.
In his brain, he knows. That's the problem. He'll never, ever admit any kind of wrongdoing, even if he misplaces something in his own life. It's somebody else's fault.
That's what the whole training and lessons and stuff that he got from Roy Cohn. One of the first things that Roy Cohn told him was never admit to being wrong.
Yes.
Spin it. And that is what he does. He spins the most dead wrong things. So if anything that we learn from this election, the one thing that we should learn, and I've been hearing the Democrats say it today, do not, absolutely do not capitulate to bro culture. Yeah, that's them. That is the most intolerant bunch of people I've ever seen. Here, you want to know a mistake that was made? The mistake was made by people like James Carville and these other Clinton-era Democrats, and those people talking about, oh, you need to focus on the so-called swing states. Well, you know what happened with that? It was the people in these other states that were not swing states that believed that their vote did not count, just didn't show up.
But all that leads us to here. We are now in a different era. We are now in a form where we need to protect ourselves and our communities. And just the sheer rhetoric that you are seeing them. You would think that they would be happy that they won, but I have not heard anybody have any kind of happiness. This is the most hateful bunch of people I have ever seen in my life. They'll never be happy. And then they're going to end up eating their own selves.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do.
I mean, we are about to enter into a dystopia where, I started writing this fiction book about this dystopian land, about this guy called the Beast who won an election. And one of the first things that he destroyed were books. But then after that, he started coming after the arts, and he's coming after music and musicians specifically. And this is how I feel, it's sad, but I feel this is where we are in this country. They've already come after books. They're coming after the things in life that make people happy. They don't. Remember in Annie, Miss Hannigan says, "Is that happiness I hear?" It's like, that's what it feels like. Because remember, during the campaign, they literally tried to make joy unpopular. So if anything we learned from this election is that it doesn't help to have a party that has pretty much just surrendered completely to a madman. But it also doesn't have another party that is trying to pull voters from the cult of that madman over thinking that you have a big tent party, speak to your tent. People will come if you keep speaking the message, but if you ignore your people, that's one of the reasons that a lot of people just, didn't show up or didn't feel it or voted just down ballot and not at the top. People want to be seen. Our base is our base, and our base is fine. Talk to our base, but don't try to talk over them, leapfrog over them to pull people on the fringe ends of MAGA, because the bottom line, the ultimate lesson to learn, they're still MAGA. And think about how many white women were up here in our faces saying, "Oh yeah, our rights, our bodies, our rights, and this and that." And then when they went in the voting booth, voted in their husband's best interest, not their own.
Okay, I want to just take a break and get up to some comments. Hey, Michelle Hayward says, "Good evening." She also says, "Red pill post disappeared."
Yes.
Michelle says the disagreements about Black men and women relations decreased drastically too. She says, quote, "Racism is a white people problem," quoting Aisha. She says, "What was that, Lala? Bish? New word." And Michelle also says that made sure a Black woman lose. They made sure a Black woman lose. Everything else is blank for them. So let me ask, what were your thoughts about the demographics that voted? Do you have thoughts for each one of these demographics? White men, white women, and Hispanic men.
Okay, well, I'm not surprised, but I'll say this. One of the things that we have to shift, and we have to stop with the narrative. Just like they're like, "Oh, 43% of Hispanic men voted for Kamala Harris." If you do math, 100%, if you subtract 43%, that means 57%, right, is left. But or maybe it was 57%. I think 43% voted for her. But at any rate, Joy Reid did this great post where she said the number of Hispanic men that voted for Trump is the same as the number of Hispanic women that voted for Harris. And so their numbers ended up canceling each other out.
Yeah.
I think the number, Black men overwhelmingly voted for Harris, 80+%. Why are we surprised that white men? See, here's the thing. In discussing this election, these post-election discussions, particularly on the media, everybody talks about how Black people voted, how women voted, how Hispanics voted, how Arab Americans voted, how, whatever. The one demographic they never talk about how they voted as being problematic or anything is white men. Not one person has analyzed how white men have voted except to say that Democrats need to work harder to get them. How come the discussion that we're not having is why are white men voting for the racist, for the rapist? Why? And then when you start making those kinds of conversations happen, we can then after that talk about how come so many mass shooters are white men.
Ryan Singh adds, these women speak from a place of privilege. There's still a lot of suppression of women across America.
Which women?
Yeah.
Which women speak from a place of privilege? Please narrow that down, please.
Lala, anything you want to add?
No, I'm still trying to keep my sanity, and I've had to work pretty hard on keeping myself in a happy place. So let me explain why this is a double dose for me. This, not only did we deal with the election of the president, I also have some serious corruption going down in Mississippi. The FBI has have come out and indicted the mayor of Hinds County, the district attorney of Hinds County. 2 council members were also indicted for bribery. So at some point, you have to come to a reckoning with you thinking that you can go to your government to get the help when you see the corruption. But when the corruption is the government, you lose all hope. So not only did I have that whammy of presidency and all the down ballot that way, I now have to also fight with Mississippi, who is also a starchly Trump supportive state. And Hinds County is one of the worst corrupt in the area, which is a Democratic area. So if I want to get justice for my sisters, I have to work with these people who want to only blame the other party. So I have to play the political game, because the last person I spoke to literally said to me, "You do know that's a Democratic Party, and that's really corrupt. Oh, you poor thing, you'll never get justice." This is someone who was on the other side in the GOP telling me that I'm not going to get justice just because it's a Democratic area. So I'm trying to get you to make the connection to big picture to coming down to a smaller picture where we're supposed to be able to go to these people for justice. So I'm hoping that you guys understand why I'm more than devastated about this whole thing, is because I don't know what to do with this fight other than to continue to pick up my sword and keep fighting.
Right.
What are your... Go ahead, Aisha.
And Lala, what you're saying, it's like you're getting this double whammy, because you're telling you that the Democratic Party is corrupt, but you're then expected to try and get justice for 2 Black women in Mississippi from Republicans.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
dealing with a state that also, don't forget, Brett Favre got all of that money from that state, from actually the governor of that state, and they're covering that up as well. Who immediately, even before things were called that night, I was watching Mississippi very close. Yeah. Immediately before anything was called, already was congratulating Trump.
Yeah. And honestly, you got to remember about Mississippi. Emmett Till was murdered there in 1955. They have still been having to replace the memorial to him in modern times. Most recently, they had to make it bulletproof, because every anniversary, people would go and shoot at the memorial. Okay, so that should tell you how many years ago that was, and that even now people don't even know the history of it, haven't even heard his name, but just go and shoot at that memorial. So I don't, it's very hard to expect that you can get the government to do things for you. But Mississippi had that happen to them. But the one thing that I think was slightly promising is that the down ballot races in other places where there were Democratic strongholds, and I'm not talking for federal office holders like your U.S. House of Representatives or U.S. Senate. I'm talking about state senates, state houses of representatives, city council, school boards. They were able to have more success. And that is something that I think the national parties need to really start paying attention to and investing in. Because here's the other problem too, is that they take all this money that they raise, because every time you turn around, they're asking for money, but they take all this money and they invest it primarily in these U.S. House races, U.S. Senate races, and maybe a governor's race in a state that they might want to flip or is a swing state. But they don't invest in these lower things, because think about it. If they were to invest in these down ballot races where people can actually come in contact with their council member or their school board member or people, their local superintendent, they come in contact with those people, their mayor, they come in contact with those people. If more money was invested in those races, I think you would see the voter turnout increase. And I think you'd see Democrats do better because they did better in down ballot races than they did on the national ones.
What do you think about, I was looking at an article that's saying it compared in different states the number of Democratic registered voters who did not vote. What are your thoughts on that?
That's what I mean. I think the thing is that in those places where there were a lot of Democratic voters that did not vote, part of the problem was that the candidate, and granted, she only had 107 days, but Biden had been on the campaign trail prior to that. The candidate did not come to them. You have to go to them. They had more offices in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and one other state combined than they had in some of these other places. Knocking on doors and asking people for their vote still works. There was $1 billion. You know what they really need to invest, give money to some of these local organizations who drive people to the polls, whether they're blue or red, but drive people to the polls. A lot of times for people in these rural communities, particularly in the South, transportation. They don't have transportation because what have they done? They've removed the polling places and they've condensed the number of polling places, and then they've moved them so far from communities that people don't have the time to take off a whole day to take a bus ride to another bus ride to another bus ride, spend 3 hours on a bus getting there, spend 6 hours in line, and 3 hours to get back, and have missed a whole day of pay. People in rural communities, people who are poor, cannot afford to do that. So the Democratic strategy, here's the thing. If the Democratic strategy spent more time investing in poor people and getting poor people to the polls instead of focusing on the upper middle class and just the middle class, she would have won. Because guess what? We know the upper class are okay. You talk to the middle class and think about who oftentimes see themselves as middle class people. Okay? Most of the time, most of the people who see themselves as middle class are white and oftentimes deluding themselves. Because I'm sorry, somebody making $30,000 a year and somebody making $25,000 a year, husband and wife, $50,000 a year in this country with a family of 4 is not middle class. Not. But if they spent more time talking to people who are lower middle class, who are poor people, who are working class people, and spoke in those languages, I'm sorry, but if I'm a poor person and all I hear is people saying, we've got to do this, We've got to make sure the wealthy pay their fair share, and we're working for the middle class. If I'm a working class person, I'm a poor person, I did not hear anyone speak to me.
No. That's all I can say about that is no.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead, Lala.
No, I was just going to say that we cannot forget there were also a lot of, ballot boxes that burned. There were a lot of people who, after the election came on and went to go make sure that their vote counted, and there were a lot of people saying that their ballot was missing or they saw that it didn't count. There's so many things that go into all of this stuff, but I still stand beside what I said earlier. This system is broken, and until we decide to tackle it and take it on, then there's nothing going to change. Because I actually said the same thing about Gore. Like, with all those hanging chads in Florida, I was like, Gore won that. Legitimately, he won the presidency. But we as Democrats never seem to stand up and fight. It's like, okay, roll over, show the belly. And I'm actually pretty tired of that too. I think I've told you guys I'm an independent, and there's a reason why I am, because I really am feeling like there's not very many people who are doing the real fight that needs to be there. There are a handful there, especially Jasmine. I love her to death.
I love Texas.
Cory Booker, he is doing, Hakeem is doing, but where are our other strong Democrats? Where was Pelosi? Where the frick was, I almost said a real bad word, but where was she? She didn't.
I haven't met Kamala very much. For someone who cares so much about the democracy, she really let her dislike for Kamala get in the way here. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm feeling like I want to be independent at this point, or at least Working Families Party. In Connecticut, you have to be registered with a party to vote in the primary. So for now, I stay where I am because I want to be able to have my say in who gets to be on the ticket.
All right, some more comments here. Michelle says they closed post offices and reduced post offices drop boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle says, to get the poor to vote, I agree it takes more resources, but we would have had to start today to make sure they are registered to vote. It comes back to a thing. Fitness IQ Camp says, I don't know about what your thoughts about this Saturday to have Biden step down and let Kamala president run for a moment. Thoughts? Do you think she had too little time to achieve?
No. And I've heard this. And one of the reasons I heard it was funny because the person was like, imagine if he did that, because Trump has his people. They're already advertising Trump 47 merchandise and stuff like that, right? For the inauguration and people buying them now. But they're like, if Joe Biden actually did that, she would be the 47th president and Trump would have to go back and all those people would have to go back and rebuy all this stuff.
I would love it.
But yes, he actually could do that instead of president here. He said he wanted to be a transitional president. Well, that would be transitional, making the first woman president, but he's not going to do it. And the reason he's not going to do it is because he is too much of a traditionalist. And I think one of the I love Joe Biden. I'm so mad about what was done to him. But one of the things that I think he failed to see all 4 years is that he saw the danger in Donald Trump, but he saw the danger of a Donald Trump who is the same age as he is. Okay. He didn't see how deep all of this stuff really ran. It wasn't the same. There were not Republicans that he could work with. For some reason, he still had it in his mind that there were still some Republicans left, the kind that he worked with in the Senate. Remember, he's been in the government for more than 50 years. Okay.
This is a totally different game.
He can't get it out of his head that there are none of those people left. And the few that were left have capitulated and fallen down flat on their backs for Donald Trump. Yesterday, one member of Congress said, if Donald Trump tells us to jump, we ask him how high, and we jump.
And that's a direct quote she just said.
That's directly what he said. And that is indicative of the poison in this party. That's indicative of where they are right now. There are no people to work with. The thing that we can be thankful for is that the margin in the House of Representatives, now that the final tallies are coming out, is slimmer than what they have now. I think now they had a 5-seat majority, and now they'll have like maybe a 2 or 3 seat majority, which keep in mind, they're still counting votes for the House of Representatives. So I don't understand why we're okay letting them continue at that count, but we couldn't sit and wait for the presidency too. Because remember, those ballots also have the president on them. We're also finding that the margin between Trump and Kamala is smaller than what they reported on election night. Right? But it's too late, because guess what?
Right.
The MAGA crackheads are already running with that. Oh my gosh, she lost by what, 3 to 5 million votes, and the margin's so small right now. It is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm with you, Lala, because remember that night of our election watch, I was sitting here doing the math across all the sites. And I'm going to tell you, because I was trying to come up with that 178 number that they had reported that particular point. The only way I could come up with it was by adding Colorado and another state that she eventually won, that they counted for him until Arizona and Nevada were reported.
Right. And they were coming in too fast. Dr. Vibe, we weren't even finished with introductions.
Well,
like I said, why they call Connecticut at 3%. And I knew Connecticut was going to go for Kamala, but how'd you know if you only count? Okay, there are 4 million people in this state. Okay, 3%. 3% means that they counted what, 40,000 votes?
okay. Well, I want to say good evening to Dr. Tachi.
Hi, Dr. Tachi.
The driving force behind Indie Soup Media, independent content creators platform with over 40 independent content creators, and has over 20,000 YouTube subscribers. So my question is, some people, the few people are saying this election was stolen. Do you feel it was stolen in any way?
You know what?
Yes.
Let me tell you this. I think it was, and not in the ways that people think, oh, did they change votes? No. Here's how it was stolen. It was stolen because of misinformation and disinformation. That should not be allowed to stand. Okay, people were literally manipulated into believing things that just weren't true. The second thing, Elon Musk and who's the other guy that JD Vance worked for?
Oh, I know the guy, Peter Thiel.
Yeah. Okay, Thiel. Trump had 3 of the wealthiest people contributing to his campaign. 2 of them are not from this country. Foreign money should not be able to enter into this campaign. Corporate money, because they both have corporations. Corporate money should not be allowed to sway an election. And I am sorry, but especially promises should not be able to be made to people with a lot of money. I promise you a place in my administration if you put $125 million into my campaign. He bought a president.
And one who already talked about him and said that if that Musk would actually lick his boots if he asked him to.
Yeah.
So what did we see? Musk is going to get everything that he wants because he put the money into this campaign.
But that isn't that America?
Well, you know what? They need to be careful right now, because guess what? I just mentioned him, but guess what? Other billionaire is not being mentioned, and not in the pictures, not in the photos. You know, I'm gonna quote Suge Knight, not up in the videos, and on stage. Okay, it's Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is part of that Project 2025 and put a lot of money behind it. JD Vance worked for him. JD Vance wrote the forward. You have not seen JD Vance. You would swear it was Trump Monk, a Trump Monk administration, not a Trump Vance. Because I'm sorry, Trump Musk. Because you have not seen JD Vance with Trump since he won. Okay, wait.
I have my theories about that.
Look, the night of the president. Look, the night of the election, JD Vance wasn't there taking pictures with Trump and his family. It was Elon Musk. Now, here's the thing: Peter Thiel's sitting there. He don't like Elon Musk. He's sitting there upset. JD Vance upset because he's not getting his respect as vice president elect. Peter Thiel's in JD Vance's ear. Look at him. And then he's making all these crazy nominations. You better do something about it. That 25th Amendment, I promise you, is looking really, really good to JD Vance and Peter Thiel right now. And I promise you, do not be surprised. Do not be surprised.
So if people don't know the name Peter Thiel, himself and Elon Musk were part of the co-founders of eBay. So they go back a while. But this is American politics. Money, cash, money around me.
But it hasn't always been that way.
I need to make clear that America isn't any different than any other country. There are many other countries that are doing the exact same thing. Yeah. You have a lot of this going on in the world. Only like 1% of all of the power of the people are from people with money, and people who are born into certain families. We do know this. This is nothing new, and it's not the only country that has this problem.
And here's the thing: we've always had money in our politics. We didn't have big money until the 2008 election when they passed the law allowing for super PACs.
I just want to ask, I think big money's always been there, just that it's not so much in the open.
No, we literally had a law passed during the Obama election that allowed for, because we didn't have super PACs before. Super PACs and PACs run differently. Super PACs can now have the money donated, but it doesn't have to be reported. You don't have to report who it came from or how much. And that is the problem. That is the problem. The big money's always been there. We've always known it was there because we could see it. With this, it allows for dark money to come in and you can't get through it. And the one reason that they passed it is because they saw Obama getting so popular.
What's the future of Kamala Harris?
Kamala Harris is going to go home to California with her husband and chill. Like she was like the day after the election or 2 days after, sitting on the floor with her grandnieces playing Connect 4.
All right. What is the future of the Democratic Party?
They better get it together, because a lot of us have lost faith in them.
They better start thinking about who their nominee is for 2028. They better start, highlighting folks. They got to start highlighting who's going to be the standard bearers of the party. Here's the thing. One thing that they should learn, all the dinosaurs of the party, as Jill Jones called them before, all the dinosaurs of the party need to realize that people don't want you to always go high. Sometimes you got to get in the ring. Sometimes you got to get in the ring and fight. We can't be like Mike Tyson was last night. That was geriatric abuse.
Well, that's a whole other conversation.
I know, but we can't be that way and let them beat up on us.
There you go. And what does this say about America?
The more things change, the more things stay the same.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Nothing has really changed. It's an illusion that things have changed. Racism, as I have said to you, is a terminal illness in America. And this is always going to come back to that. I don't care what we're talking about. We could talk about healthcare. We could talk about women's rights. We could talk about anything else that they were arguing and tossing about. But the real reason that we have these outcomes is sheer racism.
Yeah. And I suggest, I spoke in depth on this in a piece I wrote on Medium, talking about America's addiction to racism is why this election turned out the way it is. Can't break the addiction. People are getting high off of this. And the sad part is that this is how you know it's an addiction, because when people who weren't even born here, people who are born in countries where there aren't white people, or the number of white people is so small, but their people are the majority. Everyone looks like them. Everyone speaks like them. On TV, they constantly see representations of themselves. They come to this country, they see what white people have and the power they have, and they want a little bit of it. And they'll get a little taste of it being from another country. And then the moment that the tide turns and they become a pariah, they constantly struggle and strive to get that little taste of what white supremacy offered. And then they become so addicted to it that the people at the bottom of the rung become the target of their ire. That's how anti-Blackness thrives in other from other races of people who are people of color. We here know that, wait, they don't see you as white. We know that, but they still see themselves as better than Black.
So what does this mean for the state of, okay, you know what? I'll hold off. I got some comments here. Fitness IQ goes, geez. And then Dr. Tachi says, they go low, we throw rocks.
I hope. We should be throwing rocks.
And Fitness IQ says, not like Tyson. She's crying. And it says, Dr. Tachi says, the reality is, in order for some of these people to be in power, they have to oppress because they don't have the talent or the intelligence to earn power.
Exactly. And when we talk about the cabinet picks, that's exactly what we're talking about. We are seeing.
Hold off.
I know, but to Dr. Tachi's points, we are seeing a failure of talent and intelligence in our politics. And I think that's where the future is, until people decide that they've had enough of content creators and influencers trying to enter into politics. What do you think Marjorie Taylor Greene was before?
Oh boy, you haven't brought her up for so long. You miss her.
Awfully quiet lately.
Yeah, I haven't heard you. What's wrong? She isn't going to get a cabinet post. But
he don't want ugly women in his cabinet.
Oh, gee,
we know that. But we know that's who he is. She's too ugly. So is Tim Scott. That's why Tim Scott hasn't gotten a position.
Fitness IQ goes, golly. So then what? So what is the future of race relations in America for the next few years?
There isn't. It's
going to stay as it is.
No, ma'am. That's where I digress a little bit. No, it's going to get worse. It already has. See, I said this to a friend this week, and I really had thought about it, because I really went into a cocoon after this. I stayed off social media. I talked to God. I laid out and lamented. I did everything that really bothers me, is that my age, I'm 54. I will be 55 next February.
By the way, those ladies look great for whatever age you are. I just wanted to interrupt. Go ahead.
Thank you. But we came at a time where our parents and our grandparents fought in the civil rights movement. For a while there, after all that happened, we knew that there were struggles. However, we were in a period of lull, a period of sleep, like, hey, this is a little better than what it was before. Yes, we're still fighting certain things, but guess what? It can only get better. And now we are our generation didn't have to do any of the marching on that level. So now here we are, that was snatched completely away, falsehood. And now we have to pick up the banner. But where do we pick up the banner? We don't know, because we didn't have the same grassroots as the generations before us. So this is a period of time where we have to self-reflect upon what banner we have to pick up and unite and go forward. But can we? because there's so many of us that want to argue against each other about she can't come to the barbecue. She can't come to the barbecue. She this and she that. You're so worried about who is being better than you, or you feel or in your mind think is better than you, that you can't find the unity. So this is where I have the struggle right now, is because yes, we all want unity. If you ask me, we should be picking back up the Black Panther Party and moving on with that and the same principles. But do we have the mindset of enough people to do so? Yes, we can always do our own thing in our community, but at some point we are going to have to come together nationally to make the difference.
Yeah, and I think we need to have, there's this idea of we need to have a national conversation. I agree, we should have a national conversation, but the people who decide to organize and are always rushing to the front, they need to take a step back. You know who we need to take? We need to take the people who are at the bottom, the people whose voices are never heard, and let them speak. And then after they speak, listen to them and act on what it is that they say. I don't need another person who has been in some kind of position in an organization and it, gets screen time on TV. Guess what? The majority of people, unless they're like us who sit and engage in these things, they don't know who that. But they know somebody. If you take somebody who, works, who is a garbage man, but he gets involved, he goes to every PTA meeting for his kids. If you get him on a platform and let him speak, other people are going to see him because they know people like him. They might be like him, but they know what it is to work that kind of job, but still be involved in your child's PTA meetings because you know how important that is. Those people need to be amplified. I don't need another person in a business suit who is an attorney and then had been a politician for a little bit of time, maybe, did some other things. And I don't need legacy folks. What we need are people who never get heard. You want to talk about lifting people up? Let's start lifting some of those people up who are at the bottom instead of lifting people up who are already seen all the time. That's the other thing that people are getting sick of too. And younger people are getting sick of it. Younger people are getting
they're the talking heads now, and those talking heads don't speak for everyone.
You think your average 18-year-old knows who the Reverend Al Sharpton is and what he did?
Yeah, they see him as a joke.
They'd be like, who's this old man? And look, and let you show them the fat Reverend Al before he lost all the weight, and they'll be like, that's not the same person.
So then is there a need? Okay, before I ask more conversations before we go to break, Dr. Chad says they can have a conversation without me. I've already done my work.
Well, I agree. That's the other article I wrote about Black women are saying get somebody else to do it.
That's where I am.
And that's how I feel. And I believe in that. But I do believe that a conversation needs to be held. We don't need to have it. We don't need to organize it. But that is what the conversation needs to be.
Thank you for taking the most important thing, your time with us, especially after a challenging last few weeks. But appreciate you all being here. So before we shut it down, first things first, contact information for the Lala Life.
I make it real easy for you. I've got a really easy one. Just go to bit.ly/Laura Key Info. It has all of my profiles there, all of links to my social media. But I also have a store that's open now. So if you want to be a part of the protest and tell people you tired, let somebody else do it. I have t-shirts and mugs that are your protest. And that's at Roots and Richness.
All right, good stuff. And we got to get some of your promo spots on the platform.
Yes.
All right, good stuff. Next up, Aisha K.
Hi. You can get rid of the Twitter because you're not going to find me.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to be doing that right after this conversation. Okay, that's going.
You cannot find me there. Instagram, you can still find me at AK Staggers. You know,
So
send me
you're
a funny,
gonna
send
have
me
to
a
give me
funny
a,
video from time to time because I love to laugh at them. I had such a good time last night, and after this, I'm gonna go sit and watch some silly ones tonight. But you can find me on Blue Sky at
okay, so
akstaggers.bsky.social.
you gotta send me that information, and also you gotta
Yeah.
send me your Medium link too, so we get it complete. All
Oh
right,
yes, I will.
all
You can
right,
also find me at Medium at Aisha Staggers. So don't just look for my name, Aisha Staggers, and you'll be able to find my Medium page. And I'm writing like an article, or I'm writing an article every other day.
wonderful. All right, family, that is it. That is it. We are done. Another epic conversation, and I just enjoyed it. As always, you can watch replays of Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Also, you can watch replays on my website, the drvibeshow.com, which is THEDRVIBE.com. And you know what? I forgot to put how you can contact me, but if you're watching, I can actually say it off the top of my alleged mind. So website, the drvibeshow.com, the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, Instagram at the drvibeshow. Only for a little short more time, X/Twitter, because after tonight, I ain't gonna have a Twitter account. I'm gonna have a Blue Sky account, and it's at drvibeshow. And that's it. I don't think there's, and LinkedIn, actually, I said it already. Okay, I got everything done. Okay, good stuff. All right. Jen Myers says, fabulous as always. Well, you are too, Jen Myers. Thank you for putting some stuff on the Discord channel. I got to be putting some stuff there too. So I've got to get better at it. So you're stretching me, Jen. You're stretching me. And remember the new hashtag, find the root. And another one, actually, Roland Martin, African-American commentator, was very upset about this election. And what he's got his new hashtag, when people start complaining about 45, 47, just give them the hashtag, we told you so. So that's it. That's all. As always, thank you so much. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And you know what? Oh, sorry. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. I know I butchered it up, but I think I got everything in there. God bless. Peace to you all. Keep the faith and wild good. We'll see you next week. And follow us and tell people about the program. Get our subscriptions up all over the place. Be well.